Let me make this page larger. Okay, so my name is Shiya. I am a developer evangelist at AutoDesk, and I do have a Twitter handler. If you want to follow me, you get the scoop on what AutoDesk is doing around, like, basically cloud and mobile technology. So today I'm going to tell a story about something that's been haunting the design industry for many years. Probably for as long as design has really come into the scope of things. So with that, I'm going to start with a demo, which is when you try to buy something online. So this is an Aeon chair. If you guys don't know, it's those chairs in the room. So it's like it's a chair designed by this company called Herman Miller. It's a very expensive ergonomic chair that IT companies like to buy because if you sit on it for 8 hours a day, your spines won't hurt or whatever. So try to buy this chair. This chair is about $1,000. So to buy this chair, you either have to go to the store, you look at the chair and see if it's really worth that $1,000, or they have like these render images on their website where you can click open, and these are basically just 3D renders of that chair, and you kind of have an idea of how the chair looks like. Or you could actually get the original 3D model that Herman Miller has put up on their website. And this is the problem that I'm talking about right here. What's the problem? There are 4 different kind of file formats trying to open this one 3D file. So there's like, the biggest problem with design is that since computer-aided design has ever existed, people have been using different authoring software for every kind of task. It's a different software for every profession. So if I'm in, say, architect and I'm designing a building and I would like to put this chair in my building, I download the file and put it in there. Or if I'm an interior designer, chances are I use AutoCAD and I download the AutoCAD file. But if you are any familiar with these files, the program that authored it is about $2,000 by itself. So if you want to show your client, your design, your 3D design, they're going to have to download that software for a couple of bucks. That's so I'm gonna I've downloaded these files and I'm gonna show it to you for a demo later. So the problem here is that the outputs are all proprietary formats, and say I'm an architect, what I design will contain room information, how tall the wall is, and what the new room number is. But if I'm designing a chair, a room number isn't really relevant. So that's why these outputs have become proprietary formats, and it's been a mess since the 80s. And Autodesk have been trying to solve this problem for many years. We give it an attempt every 5 or 6 years, but never succeeded, because we needed a technology that basically runs on most devices. There's no need for plug-in or install to render, and it has to be cheap or free. And it needs to have direct access to GPU because it's 3D rendering. So if any of you guys have a slightly clue what that technology should be, it's WebGL. So WebGL is a JavaScript API that lets browsers render 3D. It's not a W3C standard yet, but every single browser now supports it. But it's a difficult technology to master. So unlike in a computer-aided design software where you just point and click and draw a line, with WebGL, it's about 150 lines of code to just write a triangle on your browser. So what Autodesk did with with WebGL is that we created an API that would render 2D and 3D files, that upload your CAD file with the REST API, and you view it on a browser on a JavaScript API. So here I'm going to demo you a little app that we've built to render the file. So I'm going to drag and drop this. Actually, no more files. So what it's doing on the server side, I already have it translated in here. So what it's doing on the server side is that it's translating that file into a WebGL format, and which the browser can then consume and bring out you exactly the 3D model. And that was the 3D model that I designed, that I downloaded from the Herman Miller website, and it's that chair right there. So there are a bunch of other cool applications that we built with this. There's another one called a gallery, and so this is we like to show this card to a lot of people because it has a lot of cool features. So it's a fully interactive 3D model on the browser, and this is built with this file called Inventor, with this program called Inventor. So what you could do, this is something that I always like to show people, is that you can explode the model. Okay, I'm using one hand here, so it's like hard. So you could zoom into every single one of these components and see exactly where it is. And compared to normal 3D rendering with WebGL, we did not do any optimization on this because this is engineering data and you don't want to lose the tooth of that gear right there. So all these things in that viewer, sorry, I'm controlling with one hand. It could be controlled with the JavaScript API. So these are basically just JavaScript calls, and I just attached it to a slider. And different types of lighting to render. Yep. And whether I turn on shadows or if I turn on reflections, all that good stuff. Okay. So basically the stack is that there's the server-side REST API where you upload and translate and you store the model that you upload. And there's a client-side JavaScript API where we use a library called 3JS. It's actually a library on top of WebGL itself to make it a little more suitable for writing. And you can embed that in your web page. So I'm not going to go through that workflow so much. So basically, there's a quick start guide where you create the app, and then you create the bucket which you put your model in, and then register for translation. And in the client-side JavaScript API, basically on your page, you reference a couple of JavaScript libraries, and then create a div with an ID that's named viewer or something, whatever you like. And then to initialize the viewer, you load up some options where the document on the second line right here, third line, is the URL of that object that you've uploaded and translated. And then there's the environment, and then the access token is basically off. And then you initialize. And then, well, the token is, you could just use a string, but you should write your own, get access token kind of off the server. And then, basically, here's some sample code that you could initialize it with about 60 lines. Okay. So this is about the same thing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly show you how to do it. So, okay, actually I have it right here. Okay, so this is, I copy and pasted all the code in Sublime Text. And the token the token is something that refreshes every 30 minutes. So what I already have probably already expired. So I'm going to put the token back in. And then the URL of the object that I've translated. So like I said, on your body, basically there's a div that's called viewer. And now I create a server. So with WebGL, because it loads assets from other resources, so if you try to open it up in your file system, it's going to throw like a cross-origin security problem. So that's why we got to use a localhost server. And look right here. This is a house. That's actually one of the example files. And it has the same functionalities as the car. You can like explode it, but I don't really see the point of exploding a house. Okay, cool. So that's all I have today, and visit us at developer.autodesk.com if you guys are interested. And there's some simple apps on GitHub, and this link to the slide deck is actually right there, and you can go back and refer to it and check out all the samples that we have. Okay. Anyone has any questions?
What formats do you support? Is it all of them that you showed on like the Herman Miller?
Yes. So there's about 70 file formats that we support. Look at how big of a mess we're in. So all of Autodesk the formats and most major other companies, if you like in design, in industrial design, there's SolidWorks and Rhino. We'll support that. So, any other questions? Okay.
Another one, you have to pass on the URL. Is it something you can download after you upload? So it looks like right now you basically have to point back to your server to get the models back. Mm-hmm. Is it something to where you can export those models and use your own for, like, I don't know, any kind of thing that you want to do?
Yep. So the JavaScript API consumes whatever the server side translated. So, but once the server translates everything, you can download. It's a big blob of JSON. So you can download that and then put that in your own localhost server or local server, and reference that JavaScript library can be local as well. So whatever you like to do with it. But the translation has to be done with Autodesk servers because it's a very big thing of code.
So Autodesk is actually being the renderer for lack of a better term, right? And then taking it back to model in JSON format.
Right. You could. So if you use the storage provided by Autodesk, it would map back into the model that you uploaded. But whatever you translate into JSON is very hard to translate back into that original file. That's mostly proprietary.
That's really what we want to get it out of anyways.
Right. So what I'm showing here is basically the viewing capabilities. The editing is not really feasible. Most of our clients use like design buildings as big as like a stadium. So it's just unthinkable to edit a stadium on a browser. So it's mostly for viewing. So yeah.
Are people actually rendering like stadium level objects in this WebGL viewer?
I can actually show you one here. Something about the same size. So there's trench digger. This has about 2 million polys. So it's gonna keep trying to load itself. It's a few hundred megabytes of data. So if you try to explode that, you can see how tiny all these objects are. So every single nut and bolt is in there. Okay. I remember there's a guy in the back who also has a question. What's your? Okay. So I would say that because this really is using your native GPU, so there's really not much of a difference between rendering on the browser and in your desktop application. That's huge. Yep.
So just out of curiosity, this is really cool. Why didn't you guys create it? So what's the purpose, right? So you have the software, and like you said, you can't actually model anything once it's out there. What was the driving force behind writing the converter just to throw the browser?
The reason is that most of these files, if I download it, say here. Here, I've already downloaded. So, like, a DWG is an AutoCAD file, right? I have to open it in AutoCAD, or I have to open it in some other software. And there's not really anything that will open everything. AutoCAD is one of that can open a lot of formats, but it's also $200 a month. So this viewer really is a solution just trying to let people see what your design is without having to download the big software.
I know, like, we work with several clients that design stuff in AutoCAD, and they're interested in this kind of technology from a marketing perspective, because even though your potential customer might not understand what they're looking at, they still find it cool, and they find value in that.
One thing about the architecture firms that are spending a lot of money having their items rendered out in videos,
Yep.
then having to ship those off to people.
Yeah, you send them a link, they look at it online, they approve it, and then you go into the render.
Oh, I get why we want it.
Yeah.
I don't know why they do it, because it's free, is that right?
Well, it's good for people to use their product versus one of their competitors, one of those other file formats.
It's sort of a little bit of a lost leader, maybe. I mean, they're not really doing anything, but it's like, oh, this is from AutoDesk and AutoDesk and AutoDesk and AutoDesk. Okay. Maybe we should do AutoDesk.
So this, there is a cost to this. It's free to use, but the translation process has a cost. So it's really, instead of having the person who's consuming the data trying to pay for the software, it's the person who created it. Say the designer who's paying a fee to render this in the browser. So that's the business model. So, cool. Anybody else? Yes. It's properties as well. Let me show you. That's actually a bigger thing for a lot of people. So there's a property panel with depending on how you initialize your model, each property that you click on. I don't know how to make this bigger. Right. So whatever you have in your original file, it will also show up through properties. So like, part number, how heavy it is, the size, and stuff like that. So these all properties all come into a big JSON blob. So every single piece, 3D piece in there, is connected with DBID, and that without all the properties is just kind of in there. And then there's an API that you can call basically that will show you, like the get property API that will show you this property panel. Yeah. Did that answer your question? Okay, cool. So, animation is something that we're currently working on. It's not completely shippable, but it's working. I've seen a demo, but it's not in production yet. There's another feature where it's also really cool called sectioning. So basically, you could just see the floor plan right there, or for how this engine look like on the inside, or with a house, it would be a floor plan. We should have a measuring tool right here. So you could either click on the property and the dimension would normally be there, like the area, or not a good example, but the volume, I guess. But if there's a house, like you click on it, it will show you the area, the room number, and all the properties. And we're also coming out with a measuring tool that's probably in the next couple of sprints.
The key parts around this, what is this for?
Okay, so this it's an interesting story actually. We're doing two things now. This is basically just native everything. These are all just HTML elements with like JavaScript linked to it. But it's really hard to separate these two things out. So we're actually looking into making all these elements into web components with with the custom elements. So that is something that's probably going to come out in the next few months or so, where you can actually just customize it with a couple of other lines of HTML. Okay.
How did you validate this model? Like, when you have an original model, maybe like DWG or SolidWorks or anything.
Right.
How can you make sure that whatever you're seeing here is exactly the same and nothing is missing?
How do I make sure? I guess, well, in the translation process, everything is going to go, everything is going to go from the file into this model. But if you want to, are you saying as a user to make sure, you just kind of have to compare side to side, I guess? But I'm not sure what you mean by validate.
In translation, especially geometry translation,
Right.
you would need a validation
Right.
to make sure that whatever you have in the native model, you can see it in the
So each of these components are linked with a DBID. So I would say that there's a API in the original model for most Autodesk programs where you can just go through the DBID and then see if if the same DBID exists on here, and then just basically, I guess, iterate through that. Cool.
During the rendering on the server, you're sending the JSON to the client, right?
We're doing the translation on the server, and then rendering is on the browser.
Okay, so this translation was doing like you have the file, but then not the file is doing the translation. The program is doing the translation.
Right. There's a bunch of servers in the cloud where once you upload it and register for translation, it's gonna start translating, and then it will give you basically a JSON that says the URL of the model and the name and everything. Let me show you right here. So if I create a bucket, okay, never mind. So if I upload a file here, let's see. So this is basically a put request to upload the file. And what's my bucket name? Undefined. Manage environments. Okay. Okay, see, now I've uploaded that file with the put request, and what you get back is the ID, which is the URL of your file, and this is just the storage service. You have to register that file through translation, and that really churns the file. Let me just do a demo on that too. So you have to base64 encode this URL. See, go up. Of course, when you write your own service, you should do that not by hand. So, okay, so now you're registering this for translation. Now it has started, and the get viewable API is what you see the translation process. So again, the GUID is maps to the model itself, and then say the success, whether it's successful, and the children files if you have multiple files and multiple parts, and once it finishes, it should be quick. Okay, yeah, it's I think it's a pretty large file. So there's like 4 workers in the cloud that try to process this.
How do you charge for using this service?
How do I charge? So this service is beta right now, so it's free. But they're still working on a business model, which is probably not going to be very expensive. Let's see, compared to the desktop softwares. Mm-hmm.
Program to get to make your own models.
I would say, what type of design are you looking for? Like a small object or like?
Toys, whatever.
So there are a few. There's are you making that for like 3D printing or something like that? What type of application?
I don't know. Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe it's like for small animations for kids.
Okay. So animation is a whole different story, but if you're doing if you're making small objects that for the 3D printing, mostly it takes in a file format called STL, and and it has only the shape but no mesh, no material on it. So there's a couple of free ones from there's one from SketchUp. That's from Google, but actually somebody else bought it, but it's I think it's a free software. And then Autodesk also has one called Fusion 360 that if you say that you're a startup or a hobbyist, it's free. But if you're not, it's like $40 a month or something. Okay. So let's see if this. Okay, it's in progress. Like 75% done. Okay.
Have you played with WebVR, like Mac and do this, see if that works?
I actually have. If anybody has a Google Cardboard, I can demo that. But so there is I believe it's called VR the Autodesk. Oh, okay. So what you want to plug that into your phone. Basically, it shows you 2 viewers. Yeah. So, but I don't have a gyroscope on my laptop. So if you enter that in your phone via the Autodesk IO, and if you turn it around and everything, you have a look to the house. That's this model. So basically, just link that the information, link your accelerometer with the viewer, and like as you move, just have the camera move, and that's basically what you do. So it's pretty cool. But I don't have a Google Cardboard with me right now. Question?
Just to clarify, you cannot get texture files, texture objects.
Sorry?
Can't get 3D texture objects, is what you said? Everything comes in all white?
The file format STL is the one that doesn't have any material on it, where you could use it for 3D printing, but any other format would give you a texture. Is that what you were asking?
Yeah, does it take light as well?
Yes, yes. So we have the rendering like options right here, which basically is changing the lighting in the background.
Does it take light in the 3D
Yeah, you can add your own light to the 3D scene as well. So this is built upon 3JS. So whatever you can do on 3JS, you can do it on here as well. Or actually WebGL, whatever. But we use a library with called 3JS. Okay. Any other questions? Let's see. It's like, yeah, there's like all different kinds of functionalities in here I forgot to mention. So you could search by, I don't know. No, So like in the original model, you could search for different parts in the model as well. So if you want to show them exactly what that component is, you can get to it by again the DB ID as well. So no more questions. Cool. Thank you.